And there's a guy that pressed the button, and I was, okay. And it was like a Hilton whatever, and I was, That was just a red light in front of the guy. And there was like this 5-second delay between the time you press and then he saw the light.
Okay, I'm the remote moderator.
You will write the session will start. The session will start in 5 minutes. You wrote it?
Yeah.
You
I already wrote it.
okay.
So there are notes from all the other meetings in here, probably. No privacy concerns, apparently.
No secret.
Thank you.
No secret in any of those rooms gets the draft.
Second
It's on the website, so anybody who wanted it can get it from the IGF website.
So if I refer to the document which I have here,
Let's find out.
I saw your tweets on
it's an
the here.
interesting observation.
To see that Japanese for secret coding.
Oh, the salt, yeah, good.
But
So
he
it's
loved the
cyber green. Oh yeah, he was he loved it. Yeah, I had a quick chat with him after that about just briefing about what's this and what we're doing, statistics and everything. He's doing with VHS and NIST the measurement of the software code and the saved software. So he wants to do it, combine and share
No, this is balanced.
try to fix that.
Remote participants? No. Just that people are connecting for comments. So, I mean, we have Patrick Jones, who I know who he is, but he's not speaking, he's just watching.
Hey, you again.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good to see you. Hi, Yuri.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. How are everything?
Oh my God, Mehmet.
Yes.
Oh
I'm like,
my
is she gonna give me a
God.
hug or something?
Hi. How are you? Great to see you. Change your hair. That's why you didn't recognize. Clean cut. Nice.
It's very long traveling and just really very busy. I'm not sure if I start by or maybe this is and then there is another.
This is a pretty good turnout. They gave us a good sized room too. I was in a room yesterday that had like tables along the walls and there was people standing everywhere.
That was the first one in the morning.
Yeah.
I was about to ask Eric if you can do it. You know Eric? Yeah, maybe. Eric King, yeah. We need to. It's not just getting to the train. We need to manage how to do there.
time of. People are sitting.
Okay.
New car?
Yeah, I'm thinking of getting buying a new truck.
Nice.
I had one like it, but my daughter took it with her to college, so now.
Okay.
All right. I didn't tell me which microphone to use, so I'm going to use this one. Hello. Hello, good morning. It's the top of the hour, and I think we'll get started. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for coming at the top of the hour. Normally these things start a few minutes late. My name is Paul Vixie, and I'll be your moderator today for Workshop 107 on the topic of Internet blocking when well-intentioned measures go too far. This is the latest in a series of SSAC, ICANN SSAC generated workshops inside of IGF. So we've been to the last several IGF meetings, and each year we explore a different set of issues that surrounds the idea, of DNS blocking or internet blocking in general. So I encourage you to read the reference materials associated with our with this workshop, which includes both a position paper that we wrote for today's workshop and some pointers to past workshops that address different aspects of a similar problem space. So today we're going to have a fairly traditional format. We're going to briefly go over the topics that we raised in our position paper. Then we will direct some questions to the panelists. We will direct some questions to you, the audience, because I do not believe that I could possibly know all of the subject matter experts in this space. Therefore, I think some of you are in the audience, and you'll make yourself known to me today with your questions and your recommendations. We also have a remote moderator, Robert Guerra, my co-chair for the ICANN SSAC work party on this topic, will be giving us some questions and comments from the field. So, that having been said, let me get started. I come to you as the creator of the first Internet Reputation System. It was called the RBL, MAPS RBL, which I started with probably more passion than brains in mid-1990s, maybe so 1996 or so. What happened was I got sued, and I ended up selling the company in order to pay lawyers. So that's sort of my experience with internet blocking, which is that I invented it and then got out as quick as I could. So that may give me a bit of a different perspective than Pindar here or many of the other people who are coming into this field and saying, yes, internet reputation is well established. It's well established because a lot of other people have tried a lot of things, some of which worked, many of which did not. I'm an expert on the things that did not work. Therefore, blocking occurs inevitably because the Internet Protocol Suite was developed in a high trust environment. In the old ARPANET, which was the test bed for the protocols we use today, you had to have a contract of some kind with the US government in order to be connected. And so that meant that instead of a hardened network that is ready to have adversarial communication partners, it was a very soft and very vulnerable network where every system we developed made the assumption that only other trusted parties could possibly reach it. And so we didn't harden anything. And we've spent now 25 years on the problem of commercializing and privatizing the internet, with the result that every week or two you read about another vulnerability in some widely deployed system, many of which date back to the era when this was a high trust environment. We are now in a low trust environment, and the presumption of bilateral benefit is now incorrect. When somebody tries to reach some service of yours, there's a better than even chance, that is to say higher than 50% statistical probability that the reason they want to do that will serve them more than you. So in that kind of environment, people are going to take steps. They're going to say, I don't want to be hacked all day long. I need other options. So the fact that internet access and identifier allocation, like IP addresses and domain names, are now open to everybody, including criminals and spammers and the ISPs who enable them, means that we have to differentiate the types of communication coming toward our systems in a way that was never contemplated in the early days. So there is no, their success is based mostly on their relevance. And, you know, on the one hand, this is the wild, wild west days of the internet, and so we expect that kind of thing. On the other hand, it means that when things go badly, it's often because somebody didn't follow their own rules or their rules make no sense. And it is the insensibility of the lack of common collateral damage to people that you never wrong resource, let alone all those third parties I was just talking about, which means it's difficult to pre-notify, and it's difficult if there is a case of maybe overreach, over-blocking. It's difficult for the person who's been impacted by it to reach back to the intermediary who caused the blocking to get it to be modified. And this is, I don't say this to point fault at anyone. I'm simply describing the facts as they are and letting you all contemplate sort of the global cost to the global economy of this type of industry growing with this lack of controls. So false positives can lead to collateral damage of all kinds. Barbara Tuchman is one of my favorite authors, and she's written any number of excellent books, one of which is called The March of Folly. And I heartily recommend all of her work, but especially that, because the pursuit of a policy that is detrimental to your own interests is really what guided a lot of my thinking in preparing this panel. Where we picked 3 case studies, and I'll go through them briefly. And in each case, we didn't say so much that this blocking was bad for the world, or bad for third parties, bad for collateral damage, that sort of thing. What we said is this blocking was not in the best interests of the person who did the block. And that, to me, has got to be our guiding principle, because on the internet, you can't really force anybody to do anything. You have to offer them something that is in their best interest, and then hope that they go along with you. And so we're trying to find the rational common interests among those who necessarily block. I've explained why I believe blocking is inevitable and necessary to grow the economy. So I'm not saying that I want less blocking. I'm saying I would like more coordination. So let me go through these 3 case studies very briefly. Spam House was trying to get rid of some spammers in Sweden, and they made a mistake, and they ended up blocking everything that belonged to a certain IP registry. This is a company whose job is kind of like an RAR. They hand out address blocks to other people, but they do not hand out connectivity. And so blocking an entire set of address space belonging to an address registry makes no sense, because those people have no control whatsoever over the traffic that comes from the IP addresses that they have allocated. And in fact, Spam House's own rules say pretty much that. They say that you have to be in the traffic path in order to qualify for their list, and so they made a mistake. They did not really describe the full magnitude of that mistake, nor did they fully apologize, in my opinion. But they did, after a couple of days, allow the Swedish government back onto the internet, because the Swedish government had gotten, as you might expect, all of their address space from this particular Swedish IP registry. And one could argue that Spam House lost credibility that day and lost some of the community's trust. That is not in their best interests. But I will say in their defense that at least they were violating their own policy when they acted not in their own best interests. Now let's talk about Microsoft. They worked in cooperation with another company, Nominum, which I was a founder of and continue as a shareholder of. I own full disclosure here, to put an IP proxy in place, and then they asked a judge to take control of a couple dozen domain names belonging to NoIP, which is a dynamic DNS provider. Now, NoIP is not just a good guy, they're a really good guy. The staff of that company knows the secret handshake. They are allowed into rooms where internet security takedowns are planned. One of the ways that we know that is that Microsoft allowed them into the room for some of the takedowns that they performed last year. So when we read in the court filing that NoIP was a business dedicated to crime, we wondered, why then, Microsoft, did you work so closely with them last year? Now, the interesting thing about this, there's two interesting things, maybe three. They did the same thing a year earlier, her grandmother's apartment, so that you can watch and make sure that she has not fallen in the bathtub or something like that. If this is on a local network belonging to some DSL provider, you're not going to be able to reach it from the outside, unless, like all webcams, it speaks the common dynamic DNS registration protocol and has a domain name. So we had a couple hundred technologies. That doesn't work. You can't actually do that. So speaking as one of the founders of Nominum, I apologize for the fact that they're even offering to let people do something that cannot possibly work. Nevertheless, Microsoft ended up with a black eye. And that's two black eyes, because the 3322.org also ended in disgrace for them. Finally, some of you may have read about SOPA. It lasted a couple of years. It went by several names. The US Congress was attempting to, and so when Microsoft did the thing they were trying to do, they were trying to create case law. They wanted it to be that if you're running a service on the internet that is widely used for crime and abuse and so forth, and you're not taking good care of it, and you're not handling your abuse problems, that somebody else can go to a judge and take it away from you and filter your traffic for you. So 5 or 6 people came up and said, Microsoft, if you get that case law, I am going to go immediately to my local judge and take hotmail.com away from you, because you clearly can't handle your abuse problems. I'm not sure that Microsoft would have liked that result. In the US Congress's case, I have to say that the mandatory DNS blocking would merely have moved a lot of DNS resolution overseas. It would have taken it away from Google DNS. It would have taken it away from any US company subject to US law. Is that what we want? Because once you get into somebody's DNS resolution path, you can override their connection to their bank and their other trusted partners, and you can steal their traffic and so forth. So I really think that had the US Congress prevailed, we would be in a far worse world, not just by my standards, but by theirs. So let's get to the panel. We put ingredients for a framework into our position paper. I'm not going to take our time here to go through them. These slides will be available, and of course the paper I drew this list of framework ideas from is also available. But the point of us coming up with a framework is merely to offer a set of guidelines that if everyone in the takedown business and everyone in the blocking business were to follow these rules, they would end up acting not only in the best interests of the overall economy, but in their own best interests. So we wanted more accuracy and precision, and we've specified some particular standards for how you know if you're accurate enough. We wanted monitoring of the impacts that they would that came about as a result of any blocking action. We wanted accountability and transparency, so that when you are doing something, you are allowing the real world to see what it was and to follow their own rules about arguing about whether it was the right thing. And we want to make sure you have technological capacity, that you're not trying to do something that just simply can't work, or that you didn't buy enough equipment or something like that, because otherwise you just look naive and all of a sudden you've got a fire hose of traffic coming toward you and you can't handle it. We wanted the owners of widely abused services to understand that they cannot evade their costs. They can either pay up front by having a good abuse handling system, so that the abuse of their services is something they themselves can take care of before the rest of the world does it for them, or they must recognize that having not paid up front for those costs, they're going to pay in the rear when other parts of the network take them offline or reject their traffic. You can pay up front, you can pay in arrears, but you will pay. There's no way to evade the cost or to shift your abuse burden onto the rest of the internet, because the rest of the internet has certain rules that they will impose on you. We want it to be effective. Make sure that what you're blocking actually made the world better. Don't just create some block that had the purpose of proving your strength or proving your point. Measure the impact that your blocking has and publish that result. And if you're not able to control the jurisdiction of all the parties that will be impacted, right, because communication always takes at least 2 people. So if you're only in jurisdiction with some of those people, then find the others and see if you can get them to voluntarily cooperate. Don't impose unilateral terms from outside their own jurisdiction. Okay. So, for the panel, I have some questions, but please study the questions yourself. And those of you on the remote participation system, please study these questions for yourself, because we really are trying to improve the state of this game. We want it to be that when we write the final report that comes about from this workshop, we have created something that is seen as a beneficial artifact by everyone who's in this business. And that we will have a framework, or at least a means of creating some framework, that will cause blocking to end up doing more good than harm, and we're not there yet. So, for my panelists, and we're going to start with Yuri, I'd like to know other cases besides the case studies that we've enumerated here where the blocking, something got blocked, and it turned out to be against the interests of the person who did the blocking. I'd like to know if there are non-internet regimes, right? I live in a small sandbox called the internet. There's a whole big world out there, and it may be that the issues that are at play here have already been well settled in some other part of international trade or international communications. And if there is an existing framework, some alternative framework that is different from the one we've enumerated here, we'd like to hear about that. And of course, you've come here with your own ideas. So while I'm trying to keep this as focused as we can, I do invite you to briefly describe something which can be done in this area that will improve the sort of good versus harm ratio that we're seeing from internet blocking today. So we're going to start to my right with Yuri Ito.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. Hello, good morning. My name is Yuri Ito. I am from JP Search, Japan's Computer Emergency Response Team. I think my immediate, your idea here, some suggestion is we probably need a mechanism to alert the over-blocking or false positive blocking, and that's probably a different organization or institution from different entities from what the blocking list and those security operations doing blocking, making the blocking list. The different entities to monitoring the over-blocking, that's probably, the community needs to think about to create some new, mechanism, I think.
All right, thank you for that. Let's march on down the table. I'll ask each of my panelists to introduce yourself and give us a few minutes of your thoughts on these questions or related matters.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Christine. I'm General Manager of CERT BR, the Brazilian National CERT. One of the things that it's very keen for us when we talk about blocking it's because what we are seeing a lot is a lot of overreaction. People are creating new blacklists without thinking further on the consequences along the line. They have, like Paul pointed out, this very short view that I'm going to solve this small problem here, and they don't see that they are creating new ones, and that they are actually just driving the criminals to exploit more and more victims. And I think most of these problems that we are seeing with blocking come because the criminals are not using their infrastructure, they're using our infrastructure. And I think the part of the anti-abuse is very important. So most of the time you see, oh, I'm creating this idea that I can protect myself, but actually you should be protecting the world from yourself and collaborating for the good actors to do that. And then maybe the block lists would start to be more meaningful, because what we are seeing today is that most of the blacklists are even preventing regular communication. Like a challenge for us as a CERT, it is very hard to send an email to alert someone that they have a problem. All their blacklist, block lists, anti-spam rules will just completely block everything that you try to communicate to them. And we have like new blacklists being created that are exposing victims. For example, every phishing, malware, or whatever blacklist actually just have IPs and domain names of victims that are compromised. And we have already seen the criminals using those blacklists to discover new victims that they didn't know before. And they know that if that page is there and nobody alerted that government site or that university that they are hosting a phishing or a malware, they will remain vulnerable forever. We are seeing that happening with hosting companies. We are seeing a lot of data in our sensors, in our projects of network monitoring and situational awareness. More and more we see the major cloud providers being used to host malicious DNS servers, to abuse open relays and open proxies to send spam, and to do other things. So what are you going to do? You're just going to block the whole Amazon cloud and Azure cloud because they are having that kind of content in there. So we need to think that we are all victims being abused, and basically we are blocking each other. And this is out of desperation, I think. And there are a lot of ways that technically, especially with what it's becoming now, like those sinkholing of domains, or even problems like and blacklists that people are using for DDoS sources. What are we going to do? We are going to block all the authoritative DNS servers because they're generating the DDoS reflective attacks or spoofed. So a whole mechanism on how you put data in and people to report, you know, this is actually a victim that didn't know about it. And this is a complaint that people come to us all the day. I was blocked and nobody alerted me. And I discovered too late that I was hosting. If only someone who told me. And then you can go to your, especially major ISPs and universities. So I think what Yuri said, to have this mechanism of reporting false positives and of working with the community out there to actually alert victims, you know, you should be behaving better on the internet, but probably it's because they don't know better. They are just coming in. So I think all the measures are important, but we really need to, like in the anti-abuse, and to work about like this, having guidelines to think, what is the impact when someone is using your data? And if you are just blacklisting someone that don't know better what to do. So these are some thoughts, some food for thought for someone maybe to have a solution for that.
Thank you. Moving right along.
Thank you very much. I'm Anne-Marie Eklund-Lövinder, and I'm the security manager of .se, the Swedish TLG, the top-level domain. So, as a top-level domain, you, from time to time, get approached from people that say, hey, could you just block this domain because it's bothering me for some reason? It could be intellectual property rights, it could be malware, it could be anything. And so far, we managed to keep them away because we have in our policy that we are not responsible for the content. We are responsible to make sure that you find the right place on the internet based on the domain name, which points you and direct you to an IP address. Saying that doesn't mean that it's not complicated to try to inform people on how ineffective restricting access to content through blocking domain names is, because they think it's an easy way to go. They have no idea on what the collateral damage could be if you're following that line. I know about a couple of incidents we have in Sweden. Among the telcos, the ISPs, we have a voluntary agreement with the Swedish police force. That means that the ISPs are blocking child abuse material, abusive material. And they get a list from the police force where they put in their service and they redirect them to something else, like a page that say, hey, you're trying to reach material that is illegal, and that is basically what they are doing. And that's fine. I mean, no one could ever debate that child abusive material should be on the internet. It is illegal by Swedish law. But having this possibility means that sometimes the police are tempted to approach the telcos and ask them, hey, we would like to block this too. Is that an issue? And so far, the Swedish ISPs have said, yes, it's not what we intended here. We are not going to do it. But then again, that filter mechanism can be used for any purpose. So we don't know yet where we will end. There was something else I was going to add. Yeah, other ideas. I was missing in your draft paper something about geographical restrictions. Last Christmas, Swedish vacation people, you know, a lot of Swedes, they go to Thailand for Christmas because it's warmer than Sweden for some reason. And they are really, really many. I mean, we're talking about thousands, tens of thousands, almost maybe hundreds of thousands Swedes. And for some reason, one of the Thai ISPs, being by mistake or deliberate, doesn't matter right now, but what was the outcome was that the entire traffic from Sweden to Thailand was blocked. And then you are a family, 2 parents, 3 kids, they want to see the Christmas calendar, they want to see Donald Duck on Christmas Eve. It should be a catastrophe not be able to reach daily news from Sweden or whatever. So that was really an issue. It was sold out because we have very good and skilled friends with a good network at, for instance, NetNode, who actually helped to make the right contacts to solve the problem. But then again, you can see it can take ways that you cannot even imagine. So within the regional organization for European CCTLD Center, we have published a paper on the topic of blocking and redirection domain names, just to make sure that policymakers can be informed enough to not consider this as an easy way to show power, decision power. We are doing something good. Let's block DNS for some, and then at least we do something, meaning that perpetrators will get away anyway. But at least they had been doing something, even if it's the wrong thing. So I can get back later. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Moving along.
Hi, good morning. I'm Moaz Chakchouk. I'm CEO of ITI. ITI is the former Tunisian internet agency, the agency that censored the internet and blocked a lot of websites during the regime of Ben Ali, and was very famous on those issues. And what is important to mention for this panel, I think it's not just the censorship that we have done during the regime, but it's just much more how we evolved after the revolution. One of the most important things about that is just that we faced this all the decision made by the court and to censor again and to use the same equipments to block websites and content on the internet. But at the same time, we try to build a new trust relation with the community, and we try to be much more transparent as possible. And we faced something that is really weird for me at first, because some contents were blocked, but not by us, not by Tunisian agency, not by Tunisian ISPs, but by others ISPs, but other web hoster or whatever. I can raise the issue. It was maybe very important for me because at that time we were really concerned because people are doubting us. People are saying, okay, ITI is censoring again. They are lying on us. They're using the same equipment as the regime, and they will start by censoring these websites, and then they will censor others. So it was a very important issue and very controversial to explain to people that is not our equipment that is censoring that, but this is other ISPs in developed countries, and I can name. We have, for example, Tunisian netizens cannot access to Journal du Québec and Journal de Montréal, which has a media, which has really, we don't know the reasons why we are not able to access to these websites and to the content. Tunisians thought at the time that because maybe these journals or these media are publishing some contents related to the regime or Ben Ali or something or happening, so it was blocked for that reason, or maybe the government asked the ISP in Canada to block these websites. But it was really, really important to see that it's not possible of that. It was because maybe some, our hacking community are used to try to hack some of the websites hosted by the ISP, and it was for the reason because for political reasons some of the family of Ben Ali members live in Canada. So this is why now we knew why. But the problem for us is how to mitigate, how to solve the issue.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak for our transcribers when I ask you to please speak more slowly.
I try, okay.
And also, there's a question mark where I think you meant to say Pirate Bay as a site.
I will mention about it.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. The second thing is about another media also in Egypt, and also another the Pirate Bay issue. The Pirate Bay was hosted, in Europe, and of course, the piracy is very developed in my country. This is for different reasons. I cannot mention it now, but a lot of hackers are asking us why we're blocking Pirate Bay in Tunisia, and this is not ours. It's not our fault. We explained that we are not blocking Pirate Bay, we are not blocking all those websites, and this is for other reasons. And what we have done, because we want to show to them that we are not against anymore, against this content, and we don't want them to understand that ITI willing to censor again these contents. So first, what we did is just we hosted a Tor mirror in Tunisia. This is the first Tor server as a proxy to use in the Middle East and Africa. And second, we try to contact our peering cooperators and try to solve this issue. I know that it's not their duty, but they helped us in any way to find what's going on, what's wrong for the Tunisian IP address to not access to these websites. So the reasons of these concerns from my perspective is also because we want to build this trust with the Tunisian internet, and the community, if they start to doubting us, it's very, very controversial. What is important also to mention that we, in this low trust environment, and building this trust means that we all need to be transparent. It's not ITI, for example, of Tunisia that shows to the community that are not censoring and willing to help the community to be able to access any content in this world. But at the same time that we need to build this transparency between all the actors. And this example shows that when something is wrong in a country, this could be misunderstood by the Tunisian community for political reasons. For example, as I mentioned with Journal du Québec and also with Egypt, I can also get back this information. During June 2013, there was people on the street and protesting against the Egyptian government and so on. And al-ahram.org.eg was blocked for Tunisians. We didn't know why. This is an Egyptian content, and the political issue is very tough at that time because we have also parties that are linked to the regime in Egypt. And this is very controversial, and we found out that there's something wrong, not in Tunisia, but with the peering in Italy, because we don't connect to each other. Many developing countries don't have interconnection, so they don't have access to their networks directly. So we transit via other infrastructure, and mainly for Egypt, it was used to the Italian infrastructure. So that was also another reason that we have been blocked to access to the Egyptian. I don't know why, and nobody was able to explain why until now. Okay, I think I covered some of the issues that we have faced after 2011, but I think there is much more cases that could be raised in Tunisia for these issues. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Moving right along, and I'll remind you to please speak slowly for our transcribers.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Shahzad Ahmed. I work with Bytes for All. We are a human rights organization based in Pakistan. A few days ago, when I was preparing this session with the team, the first, in cricketing terms, the first stamp out for us was well-intentions. So, and then the first thing what they raised was what you mean, what in this whole discussion, what is well-intentions? Because it's very subjective, vague, and difficult concept when it comes to blocking, because we have been a victim of well-intentions for a long time in Pakistan. So how censorship works in Pakistan is not via third party or intermediaries. It's actually state imposing through their own authority, and it is not usually, while there will be sporadic incidents of blocking by ISPs on a certain content as well, but mostly, essentially, almost always it is state directive, and then that is how it is blocked. So that is also a challenge in this whole discussion, that how we can make a state authority accountable, or what Moise was also talking about, transparency of different aspects of it. Just to give you a few examples, when it comes to intermediaries, an illegal, I'm again emphasizing it, an illegal request is generated towards Facebook, and then Facebook accepts that illegal request and then blocks certain pages for example, political expression, which is, again, I can give you one example where we know that, okay, the blocking, the action was initiated by the authority, and then the intermediary was involved, and it's all illegal at all several levels, not only in Pakistani, as per Pakistani laws, but I'm sure it is also against the principles which Facebook stands for, at least on their website, and how they would operate. So, and then resultantly, the pages get blocked. Then, why Facebook does it is that, they have their business interest in the country. We have a fairly large population using internet, and Facebook is a medium of masses, and then a lot of people connect through that medium. So they only want to make sure, and we have interacted with them. They are very accessible, thanks to the team at the Facebook, who would at least respond to if we raise questions. But their only concern is that they want to remain open and accessible in the country at all costs. And then we know that what happened in 2010, when they were blocked for about 2 months due to Dra Muhammad page issue. But after that, the well-intention of the state, and then Facebook agreeing to block those pages is problematic. I don't know how it fits in this whole idea. Then another well-intentioned action is block VPNs. So VPNs are blocked because there is terrorist threat. People would be using the content that they should not, what state think that the citizens should not have been accessing, without realizing that how it will impact on several other services, key services, for example, financial services, banks, for example, and then safety of individuals. That probably is not a concern in this whole discussion. Then, I can quote several other examples as well. But I just wanted to keep it around the discussion where, we were also talking about the intermediaries. So, another well-intentioned blocking action that I would like to mention is YouTube. That is blocked for 2 years now. We'll have 2 years anniversary on 17th September. And it was, when they blocked it, the intention was that there is a lot of protests going on, and there may be violence, and we should block it. They blocked it. But now all the reasons and why it was blocked have all been addressed, and even the court, Pakistani court, has given favorable orders to open it. But authorities, despite the fact accepting that it should be open and accessible to the people, and it is important for the citizens in the country, are still not opening it up. So in this case, probably we won't blame. Okay, it's very complicated though right now, but yeah.
Okay. I think you've made your point. So when states become involved in our affairs, sometimes the terminology becomes difficult. So if you ask what is the definition of well-intentioned, and you're dealing with a state who is exerting control over its citizens instead of the other way around, then it's hard to know whether those intentions are indeed good or bad. So let me clarify a couple of the terms that I used in my opening statement. To be well-intentioned here really is referentially, it's in the frame of reference of the person doing the blocking. So in order for a well-intentioned blocking measure to go too far, it would have to be seen by the person who did the blocking that it went too far. And in that case, it would be your state, the government itself. And the definition of intermediary, I'm sorry I didn't make this clear. In my opinion, if two otherwise cooperative parties cannot cooperate because of the actions of a third party, then that third party is an intermediary. They are, even if they are not on the path themselves, they are affecting whether there is reachability between two people who would otherwise be willing to cooperate with each other. And one of those people might be a subscriber to a black hole feed or something like that. But really, by intermediary, I don't mean on path, and I'm sorry that I didn't make that clear. Now, the accountability of a state is an interesting question, right? If you ask why was YouTube blocked and why is it still blocked, that, I think, is not a question for the internet. That is a question for Pakistan. So I'd like to, if possible, rule out that topic in our discussion here today. Not that I'm not personally interested, but it's just outside of our scope. Robert, what do we have from our remote participants?
So I have 3 questions. So I'll just relay them to you and give your wisdom in terms of who you want to direct them to.
One at a time, please.
One at a time. So the first one is, what are 3 recommendations that you might, or the panelists may want to give to small and medium-sized hosting providers that often get caught in the blacklist situation? What can they do? So that's question number 1.
Who would like to take that?
I can start.
Let's start with Christine.
One recommendation that we are giving, not only for Median or for all hosting providers, is that really you need to be more proactive, in a sense that probably you need to set up policies, different kind of services, because most of the time we see the small hosting being affected by two major problems. One is that they are hosting websites that have plugins, have CMS systems that are being compromised, so the hosting company doesn't know that they have vulnerable systems, or they have a client that puts something vulnerable in there, and they are being abused majorly for phishing and for other kind of attacks. And the other one is really the criminals just buying the cloud services and putting whatever online. And most of the time we see that they are just using that 1, 2, 3 day span. And we are seeing something that's affecting us a lot are dozens and dozens of malicious DNS servers being used by compromised CPEs, by modems. So we are trying to work with the people to try to see, okay, if someone, what is really the medium user doing? All of them putting in their own DNS server. Maybe if you want to have a DNS, you need to have like some other confirmation, or after the payment came through and it was not a fraud, or maybe you were putting something else in there, but not necessarily, you're not hindering other people in there. So it's not...
Three recommendations.
Three.
Be more proactive.
So one is more proactive, but in two parts, I think, is really be more proactive into securing your infrastructure, into having updated systems. The other one is being proactive with policies to identify when people are abusing your system, and maybe not to have like a restriction that you are censoring what they're doing. And I think the third one is to pay attention when people are trying to report that you have a problem. Have a channel, have a CERT, have an abuse team, have someone, subscribe to data feeds. So try to see what the world has of information that you are generating malicious content, and then probably you'll not end up in a blacklist.
Thank you. Anne-Marie?
I agree on the proactive part, but also I think you should be more, get to know your peers. Make friends. They are so very useful when the time comes when you get blocked and you don't know where to call. And also one final part would be actually to make sure that you are very accurate, and that is mostly going to those who are offering the services like anti-spam filtering, like web blocking and filtering. You are responsible for what you are doing on the internet. You are interfering with the most important infrastructure we have. That brings to you something like I would like to send. You have a trigger in your hand that grows by the day. So make sure that you have responsibility, that you have the paths to make it right when it went wrong, and do it quickly, as soon as you can.
Let's go to our next question.
Okay, so there's a second, and then I'll give the third. So the second question is one related to Pakistan. Pakistan, I believe in 2000, the question was, believe in 2008, blocked YouTube in the country, but because of some issue, it got blocked all over the world as well. What was the reaction in Pakistan to the Pakistani authorities blocking YouTube worldwide?
Like the rest of the world, we were all laughing about it. Yeah, nothing else. I mean, because they didn't know what they themselves figured it out a lot later what happened. But it was actually a block, a filter that they put at the Pakistan Internet Exchange that caused worldwide outage of YouTube. So I mean, it happened for some other websites as well later. It's probably a capacity issue or how it has been done. But yeah.
All right, thank you. Before we take our third remote question, I have a couple of locals. Do we have a microphone floating, or should I hand mine out? Yeah, it's Mehmet here in the front. is our first questioner. Please be brief. We're
Thank you,
down
Mehmet Aksin.
to our last half hour.
And the first question, I just wanted to add a point. I find it very useful to email outages at outages.org when I see something is not properly working. I just wanted to bring that to attention for those. Outages at outages.org seems to be monitored by a lot of people, or those who monitor knows the right people to put you in touch with.
All right. Let's move back to Michele.
Thanks, Paul. Michaela Nayland, Black Knight. It's more a kind of a comment, I suppose, rather than a question. A lot of the blocking that we all do and we see and impacts us, I think it's a kind of a domino effect. I mean, as a couple of the speakers have mentioned, there's a major issue with respect to responsiveness. We've all seen issues arising where hosting providers, content hosts, be they small, large, or otherwise, are completely unresponsive. So as a result of which, instead of, say, us blocking 1 or 2 IP addresses, we end up being forced to block an entire AS. So for those not too technical, that means instead of blocking 1 or 2 websites, 1 or 2 resources, I'm blocking thousands or millions potentially. I mean, the thing is this, that those of us in industry really need to take it seriously. If you are a hosting provider, you need to have an abuse contact point. Okay. You need to be responsive.
I consider that point well amplified. Please pass the microphone behind you. There you go.
Walid Al-Sakaf. I happen to have been a victim of blocking as well as a circumvention tool developer myself. The idea about that you can resist blocking through circumvention, I haven't seen that being raised here, but how legitimate do you see the idea of helping activists, for example, and people with a vision of open internet, such as the developers of Tor, whom I had the pleasure of hearing here on the panel, in supporting activists and users when overblocking or blocking happens on what we can call, subjectively speaking, illegitimate grounds. And beyond that, there's also a privacy element. I mean, all of us running circumvention tools have servers who that oftentimes are required to not keep track of who's using them, in which case, obviously, we are perhaps violating certain rules in certain countries. So where do you see it going in terms of legal as well as activist aspects?
Okay. It's a good question. Of course, in Tunisia, for example, we have been through, in Tunisia, we have been through a tough censorship and blocking regime. So we know very well, the community knows very well how to get out of our filtering and to use these proxies very well. We use it during the revolution, and when something is wrong, the first thing they do is such they use these servers. They know it by heart, So it is very familiar for them. They trust these proxies because they provide access to the content they want it. Wherever there is a problem, the first thing they do is just they use the proxies. Second is that when we started to talk about having a Tor mirror and a Tor server in ITI, of course, some people applaud it, but at the same time they say, oh, maybe the ITI will use this Tor to access to our information and to know who is using these proxies and which content we are getting in. And I think Jacob is here; he can say it, that we never use this for those reasons. And the thing that and we think that it is very important to show that we are really pushing for the community to use any kind of service to bypass any filtering in this world.
Thank you. I'm going to address the broader part of that question. I am currently involved as a principal investigator for DARPA, which is the U.S. Defense Department's research arm, where we are helping to secure Tor, because Tor is very good at keeping things anonymous so that you can't find out who your activist is. But it's also fairly easy to block, and you can detect Tor flows and stop them, even if you can't necessarily find out where they are. So it may seem strange that the U.S. government would be funding efforts in this area, but the U.S. government has also funded quite a bit of Tor development. And what I can tell you is that the history of technology in general and the internet specifically is one-upmanship. So what you're going to see is one group of people who want to get something done, another group trying to stop them, and then each one of them will make a small improvement to either the censorship or the workarounds, and it's like an arms race, and it's an arms race with a million arms. And I think that's inevitable. No matter what we say here today, no matter what we write in our report, no matter what we all went into the community and recommended, that arms race is going to continue. And so I think we should treat that as climate rather than weather. That's the world we live in. And inevitably, that is the current state of play, it'll go back and forth, it will oscillate. And any given revolution in any given country could succeed or fail based on the current state of that oscillation. And in that sense, I would say that Tunisia and Egypt were very lucky. Question in the middle.
Earlier, with regard to YouTube in Pakistan, you said that's a question for Pakistan, not for the internet. I'm not sure I understand the distinction. Let me give you three other types of cases. First, Homeland Security telephoned Mozilla to ask Mozilla to kill an extension that a community member had developed in order to redirect Firefox users from the seized domains to new domains for websites labeled rogue websites against which no legal action had been taken. Second, Visa and MasterCard are blacklisting entire industries such as VPN service providers, saying we're not going to process payments for you because you are on an offensive list. Third, Group M denies advertising syndication to companies that have been placed on blacklists by entertainment companies. All of these without any form of due process. Now, is that an internet issue? Is that a U.S. issue? Is that a Visa issue? It seems to me that all of these relate directly to the functioning and use of the internet.
Since I made the comment, I'll answer your question. What I don't think is that there are people in the Pakistani government waiting to hear what we think, or that if we told them they're doing it wrong, they would stop doing what they're doing. Now, there are people all over the world for whom what we do here today is relevant, and I am interested in solutions that we can find that all those people will see in their common interest and start building systems that will make the part of the world that wants to know what we think better. But there's an undercurrent here. There's a huge number of people in the civil society community who believe that the internet is somehow the beginning of globalized liberalism, and that it can stamp out tyranny in all its forms, and that every government who opposes open communication will ultimately fail and fall before the onslaught of the internet. I am not one of these people. I believe that old money powers got that way somehow, and they have their current position for a reason. And I don't think that they are particularly worried about the internet toppling them. Maybe they should be, but that's not the business I'm in, and that's not the business that our panel was in, or that this workshop, I think, should be in. There's a lot of very relevant work we can be doing without trying to tell nation states what their laws and accountability ought to be. That's all I meant. Pindar in the front. While we wait for the microphone, let's get our next remote. Who was it?
So the third question was, Spam House was mentioned, Maps was mentioned. What are maybe 3 to 5 other blocking services that you may know of that aren't usually mentioned when people talk about blocking? So what are other companies or services in the industry that maybe you know of, but the public may not. So can you just shed light on others that do blocking? Just so the question was, what are 5 blocking services other than Spamhaus or Maps that exist?
I think there are dozens, and as the moderator, I'm going to say that question is out of scope. Jacob, you're next.
Hi. So I guess I have a lot of questions for you guys, but I'll just stick to one, which is that I want to challenge the sacred cow that everyone agrees about certain kinds of censorship. In Western society, it's child pornography. In other places, it might be terrorism or a particular religious minority or something like this. And I just had a really interesting exchange with Interpol on Twitter, where they basically said that there's never purposeful overblocking, which I thought was really an interesting point. I wonder if there's actually any transparency or accountability with the censorship lists that you've seen, because whenever they leak, we see things like in Australia, a dentist's website is on there. How is that appropriate? How do you detect that? Where is the accountability for that? Where is the, for example, the tracking that shows who added that? Where is some sort of repercussion for adding a false list? False listing like that. And I wonder what you think about something like certificate transparency or a blockchain structure where every time a URL is added to a censorship list, you have someone who added it as well as maybe a hash of the URL. So there's transparency of the number of entries, but you don't necessarily reveal what the entry is. I wonder if anyone has built a system like that. And otherwise, I wonder what you think about just making these lists public.
My clicker does not work, but part of the framework that's in the position paper mentions the need for transparency. And it says, because this is what we believe upon convening this workshop, that if you're blocking something and no one knows what it was or who blocked it or why, then you're probably doing a net harm to the world and to your own interests. Now, as to the cryptography of a blockchain and so forth, that is beyond the scope of this meeting. So,
Paul?
Oh, Yuri would like to speak.
Excuse me. Japan is doing the child pornography blocking. That's the only thing that Japanese ISP level of domain blocking. And then the transparency is the most important part. There's an association with the National Police Agency, lawyers, and then ISPs and other private sector parties get together, discuss about the criteria and what they're going to block. So very transparent criteria of the blocking, how to make the blocking list. And then the ISPs are also sharing how they, what type of method they're blocking. Is that a DNS blocking or a cache, blocking or other ways of blocking, so they carefully create the list to avoid the overblocking. And also they are very careful on undo function. It has to be really quick and needs to have the effective process to undoing if there is false positive. Other thing is the monitoring part. That's their challenge. ISP itself or community has a transparent process of monitoring that over blocking and all of that.
Thank you. Christine?
I would like to make a comment not necessarily about censorship, but about this effect that you said about having like public blacklists and private. And every time you have a blacklist, especially if it is something that points to someone that's vulnerable, we always have a problem because we are seeing people abusing that. It's very difficult to say that you can have like transparency and, as Paul said, to guarantee transparency and censorship. But what we are seeing is that a lot of blacklists that are not necessarily for censorship also don't have transparency, and they are becoming, in some cases, just pure extortion, that you get there, you don't know how to get out, and they just say, pay me, and I'm going to stay here forever. So we, as a CERT in Brazil, we always try to advocate, be cautious before using blacklists. Be cautious before submitting things to a blacklist. Don't be too eager to use blacklists, because you can be making your problem even worse. And I think if we can at least start to have like a reputation of blacklists and at least separate a little bit, okay, if you really think that you should be using it, here are some rules that you should look for in the blacklist. It is transparent. It is something you know how to get in and how to get out. Someone actually told you that you were in there or tried to. And that could be copying a national cert, copying another group, copying. We have like not-for-profit organizations. So one of the things that this panel wants is to have like some ideas what would be acceptable into building a more transparent, and maybe to build that people, you know, this is, if you want to block, and there's a point that you think there's no other way for you, at least try to use like some more reputable and good ones, because I think then I go for the desperation and overreaction. Everyone is kind of desperate and taking measures that are really not helping. And every time that someone sees, oh, but there are blacklists, and then I can abuse that, and then I go to the point of Anne-Marie that people don't think where they are going thinking about blacklists. So in Brazil, we always say, try to define a policy. Otherwise, you'll be between a rock and a hard place, and people saying, block this, block that. So be conscious before you do it, but be conscious what you submit for that. So this is some of the messages that we are trying to pass to people instead of just blocking everything.
Anne-Marie next.
Yeah, I appreciate your question, Jake, and that is one of my problems with the Swedish police force and the child porn filter, which is called in people's mouth, because the police force is the only one who can put records on that list and can remove them, and nobody else has any power on what's on that list, which is, from my perspective, I think that is a problem. We need a third party, actually, to judge that. But on the other hand, I am really pleased to be able to tell you that our largest ISP, Telia Sonera, they published a transparency report this year to be able to try to explain what they have been doing, why they are doing it, and so forth. And I have a representative here in the room. Maybe he wants to comment on that. I don't know. Anyway, I think that is a good way to move forward. And as Christine say, the responsibility stays with those who have the trigger in their hand. We have a Swedish cartoon that is a small bear called Bamse. And Bamse, he has superpowers because his granny cooks honey for him, which gives him the superpower. And he's very wise, this character, because he claims, if you are strong, you need to be nice.
I like that.
Yeah, one thing which is very important that in countries, in developed countries things would have been different where systems are established, but in a few of the countries, the companies, they don't stand up to do such issues and such actions. I mean, again, giving an example from Pakistan, these skill switches keep happening, a lot of blocking. So why it is civil society organizations going to the courts and running out about it and creating campaigns? They are also affected for their business. They are also affected for their operations, their systems, and everything. But they will just take it from the authorities. They will. I mean, we do not have even a single example where any of the company, whether a small ISP or a big telco, they would have stood up and said, okay, I mean, what you are doing is wrong, even when massive kill switch operations are happening at several levels. So this is, I don't know. I mean, again, this is another. I'm raising another problem, but at several levels where decisions about internet are made and where governments are also involved, for example, ICANN or other forums. So probably it's important that, I mean, it is also raised with this whole issue of this whole point about transparency and openness. So that should come in and then it should be seen on the ground level. And then, in my opinion, internet is not a country-specific issue. It is, I mean, the example of YouTube a while ago. So it affects a small little thing in a country can affect the whole world on all this. Make it, break it.
Thank you. Pendar,
So if you assume possession is the law and whoever possesses these lists has the power to put on and put off, I agree with the Anne-Marie in terms of the oversight in terms of removal. So my suggestion or question is, I believe one of the stakeholders you need to outreach is actually the judiciary. So I'd like to know how you can tailor your talk on internet physics, because this is really how it works, to be accessible to those who the judiciary who will make these kinds of calls. So the suggestion here is a very specific targeted communication to a very specific sector. This, however, assumes that there is a separation between the state and the judiciary, which may not always be as clear. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Patrik Iselius from Telia Sonera, approached by one of the panelists. On transparency, there was a very vivid workshop 188 on transparency reporting. Telia Sonera published its report 2 weeks ago, and we had good discussions together with the Industry Dialogue and GNI. And of course, it's available online, and I'm here at the conference if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question in the way back, close to the camera.
Thank you. My name is Gemma Campillos from
Louder,
Spain.
please.
Sorry?
Louder, please.
Gemma Campillos from the Spanish government. Blocking exists because the content provider is not in the jurisdiction who takes that measure. It's because the content provider is overseas. So governments and the courts are forced to take that measures to fight against what they consider illegal content. So what it could be needed to avoid blocking, which I agree that it's an undesirable measure, is to foster international cooperation so that authorities, both governmental authorities and courts, can have a channel in which measures can be taken swiftly. Because nowadays we rely on mutual assistance agreements which come from a pre-internet era, and there are various law mechanisms to fight against content, and we need swift and speedy reactions to block child terrorists or even IP abusing web pages. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw a hand up. Yes, you in the middle on the left side.
I'm Nova from Indonesia. I just wonder to all of the panelists, what is your idea about the linkage between the internet right with the sexual orientation and gender expression? Because in Indonesia experience, some of the web, LGBT web, or lesbian, bisexual, transgender information web, have a problem with this blocking without appropriate transparency from the government and from the hosting service. Thank you.
So you've asked a question about sexual orientation, which I'm likely to rule out of scope unless someone on the panelist wants to speak to it, because I really feel that the internet should not be seen as relevant at that level. At least the people in this room should not be telling governments like the Indonesian government whether they should or should not allow communication and what the internet rights are for sexual orientation. I'm sorry, that's just out of scope. I saw a question in the way back. No, hand is not back up. All right.
First of all, I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. There are technical problems with overblocking. For example, this doesn't happen too often, but with parental control filters, sometimes breast cancer sites will be blocked because they saw the word breast. So that is a technical issue. I don't know the case in Indonesia, but it's quite possible, for example, in the United States, some gay and lesbian sites have been blocked, not because they're gay and lesbian, because the word sex may appear somewhere in the site. In fact, I operate safekids.com, which is a website dedicated to keeping children safe on the
possible, new methods of communication, new pathways, new tools. The internet is not a hammer. You can't use it to destroy something you don't like or force change on someone, but you can sometimes build roads on the internet that make a new way of life possible. And we can't enforce due process. What we can do is to follow up from this meeting with more work on a framework which could be seen as in the best interests of everyone who wants to block something for either commercial or non-commercial reasons, so that we can begin to have some responsible standards in this area. I heard a lot of people say transparency. So that is one of the bullet points in the framework we've offered in the position paper. To the extent that anybody is blocking without notice and without recourse, I would recommend not waiting for our final report, but rather reviewing that policy now, because that, on the face of it, is going to do more harm than good, no matter what good you may also do. Robert, you've been taking notes. Do you have something to add for our summary?
I just want to add maybe a couple of quick logistical points. So we've had up and down internet outages during the whole session, and I'm just going to check with the Secretariat to make sure at least the audio is preserved in the transcripts. We don't know. For people who want to give comments on the ESSAC paper that's available, the way you can access it, if you go to the, I've tweeted about it extensively using Workshop 107. It's also available on the IGF workshop description. It's downloadable. And you can email me or Paul for comments, and we'd really appreciate your comments. And I think just want to echo, I think what you mentioned. This really was a session to try to get feedback on a nuance of a topic that's not usually as discussed, and I really appreciate all the feedback, and look forward and appreciate all the questions, but also the ongoing conversation that this will have. We hope that it's not just you all came to the IGF, packed the room, and I'm really thankful for that, but also to stay engaged on this topic. It is a topic that affects a lot of people, but getting into the nuance and finding the policies, the transparency, and elsewhere, we want to keep the conversation going.
Thank you, Robert. And he's right. You should send him email if you have further comments. If you can't find him, send it to me and I'll forward it to him. So let me just say we're out of time. I have huge, huge appreciation for my panel. You guys came along.
Kravatını taşıyan insan benim. O kravatını taşımış valla. Gerçekten çok ağır ya. Benimki taşısınız acaba bir şey.
Ya bırak şimdi. Bence yapmak yapılmış. Çünkü oyunun sonuncusu olması lazım.
Hile yapmış. Hile yapmış. Kesinlikle atmak bir şey. İskemle var mı abi? İskemle var mı? Var. Ama canım da işte. Bana 5 puan kafada. Bu elinden çıkacak. Şu an çok gaza geldi, gidebilir miyim? Hadi Allah. Hadi Allah. Aşağıda tanınması kişi yok mu? Vardı abi. Sen hiçbir şey yapmıyorsun ha. Biz sana tarif edelim. Sen hiçbir şey yapmıyorsun. Kahveli ilk kenarlarından şey olur. Ben şu an çok depresifim. Merak etme, bütün sular. Ben de kendi çantamı al işte. Bizim açmamız yanlış almış. Şimdi hayır, kadın çantası için açılmaz ki. Şimdi gireceksin, orada açacaksın, laf edeceksin. Bizim açmamız yanlış almış. Bayan çantası bir kere, şimdi böyle olur. Bizi şey karşılayalım. Ters ters bakarlar. Gelsin böyle bir ilan baksın, bana söyle, ben hemen okuyoruz değil mi? Yani bakarsa ben de uyarım da yani. Sonuçta bakmış olur. Hayır, bakarız. Onun zaten bakması yani. Hiç
Kendine 5 puan verirsin.
Ercan.
Bu sefer eşli oynuyor.
Tamam ben sence.
Tamam sen bensin. Hayır sen Tuğrul'la Tuğrul'la da birisi zaten.
Furkan çok bir şanslı gördüm.
Kanka sen
Şanslı gördüm. Ondan mutluyum.
Bizim işimiz. Tam nerede bak? Sadece sordum nerede olduğunu yani merak etme.
Tamam dedi, nerede dedi. Bu demek ki
tam
ben
nerede?
alacağım.
Tam nerede? Tam nerede?
Tam nerede hemen tarif edeyim.
Tam nerede? Tam olarak söyleyebilir misin?
Abdullah sen anlatsana. Erkekler yönleri daha iyi tarif ediyordu.
Yani bir şeydi işte. Çanta var, yanlış çanta açarsın.
Açalım zaten bir şeyim yani. Şanslı filmdeyim.
Melek hadi ya, vallahi yürüyorsun.
Ya üf. Ya zaten 2 gram var üstünde.
Bak bence güzel bence güzel dedi.
Bak orada orada bir laf edeceğim.
Ne laf edeceksin?
Seni orada var ya, şunu yapacak yani.
Ben yalnız gitmeyeyim.
Diyeceğim ki bu çanta ben ve bu adamdan sorulur diyeceğim. Bu adama yan gözle bakan olursa diyeceğim. Ulanla hadi.
Tamam bekliyoruz. Teşekkür ederiz. Kesiliyor şu bazen. İnternet var ama sınırlı ya.
Yukarı sandalye koyuyorlar. Yanlara iki yana da sandalye koyuyorlar.
Şeyde galiba. Belarus. Ne oldu ki? Onu var hocam. Biraz soran mı?
Yok ya.
Biraz sormaz ki bana.
Bize şey, ket mi ne var oraya da
Ket. Bilmiyorum. Avrupa'da değil de o. Şurada Asya'da. Şurada aşağıda.
Gidiyor nasıl gidiyor?
İsmi şeye benziyor bak. İstanbul simgesi olarak.
İşte o tarafta.
Biz güzel gidiyorlar. Ama işin ufaktır ya senin. Biraz. Daha program var da hangisi işte? Devlet programlaması mı, yazılım mı? Programlamaların hepsi sıkıntı yani.
İşte hani o hiç direkt bırakıyorlar burada 2 tane mühendislik yapıyor.
İlgin yoksa ya ben de benim mesela programda iyi değildir ama mesela tek A dersi var, o da programlama. Ama çalışmıştım ona ya. Hani şimdi yaz desen şimdi şey diyor. O zaman. Senin bölüm neydi? Ha doğru demiş. Sen kurtarmışsın o ya. Mühendislik okusaydım ya.
Evet.
4 sene sonra gider nasıl fotoğraflarına ya. Kim sormuş? Congratulations. Next time goes. Uzun çalışıyor. Kalem. Nereye yazsak? Hangisi benimki ya? Benimki. Birkaç kağıt alsana ya. Milli anlatıyor. O zaten bakacak ya. Burada bir şey.
8. Yok.
Sen bir boş.
Ama şimdi 4 bir şey yok.
İşte öyle olacak işte.
Bence işte
Ama çok zevkli işte. O gelince hemen oynarız ya. Sıkıntı saç yaparız.
Ben de güzel oldu. Siz gördünüz öyle. Yok yok ben oynamıyorum. Ben istiyorum.
Kim yazıyor var mı? Aferin.
Yazsana. Oynamak istiyorsan sen oyna. Benim için sıkıntı değil. Eşit oynamıyorum değil mi? Ben dinledim.
Eşitliyor musun?
Oyuna giren karşıdaki eşit kartları açılıyor. Şimdi böyle girersen kartları açarsın.
süper ya. Bu kadar kalabalıksınız.
Şu açık değil mi?
can hear you. Hello?
Mikrofon.
Not good.
9 yazıyor.
Can you hear me? Se. Can you hear me?
Very bad.
Yeah.
I can hear you very bad.
Okay.
Fabrício.
Now you are
Fabrício, eu tô aqui já na sala, estamos com o Webex aberto e eu tô falando no microfone. Opa.
Sua voz tá estourada, cara.
It's like the mic is very high and then it's blowing, you know, like the volume, maybe we can adjust the volume. E agora, melhorou? Tá melhor?
Não, tá igual.
Tá estourando? Estamos ajustando o volume aqui. Estamos ajustando.
Eu quase não entendo você porque tá muito estourado.
E agora? Continua estourado?
Agora tá bem melhor. Ótimo.
Tá perfeito? Tá perfeito ou vale ajustar mais um pouquinho?
Não, tá ótimo agora. Deixa assim.
Legal. Não, acho que você baixou. You push down the volume of the speaker. He got. Não? Não, microphone is okay. Fala um pouquinho, Fabrício.
Volume up.
Alô.
Okay.
E agora, como é que tá? Tá bom? Continua bom?
Não tô te ouvindo, cara.
Bom? Continua bom?
Você tá sem áudio, cara.
Estamos, no áudio. No áudio.
Você tá sem áudio.
He can't hear.
Oh, really?
He can't hear.
Why? I don't know why.
Let's see. E agora?
Agora tá ótimo.
Agora sim. Now okay. Perfect.
E aí? Tá tomando café, então?
Eu tô... Agora foi depois do almoço, mas nem almocei. Comi um pãozinho com gergelim na praça.
Cara, pergunta aí, cara.
Eu tomei um café da manhã bom.
Ótimo. Já serve.
Tomei um café da manhã apimentado, cara. Uma caçarola de ovo com tomate mega apimentada, cara. Por isso que eu não tô com fome, eu acho.
Você tá acostumado com as comidas do Nordeste, né? Eu ainda peguei um pouco demais.
Verdade, meu ensinamentos de Nordeste estão me ajudando aqui. A comida deles é hot, cara. Pô, mas tá um calor, rapaz, nossa. Um calor demais, cara.
Pô, cara, legal, porque aqui no sul tá frio, cara.
Tá frio?
Frio, quer dizer, tá melhor, né? Bem melhor que agosto, mas agora a gente tá passando frio aqui.
Ainda tá friozão aí.
Só daqui umas 2-3 semanas vai engrenar. Aí vai começar daqui 1 hora, então, né? Não, meia hora, né?
Daqui meia hora. Eu vou aproveitar para distribuir os cadernos aqui, segura aí. O Daniel, eu vou mandar o número da sala pro Daniel também.
O Daniel tá online já, né?
Tá online? O Daniel.
Ele tá aqui.
Can you hear us, Daniel?
Sim, senhora. Alô, você me escuta?
Te escuto.
Tudo bem?
Tudo bom. Como é que você tá?
Tudo bem.
Beleza.
Ótimo. Tá me ouvindo bem? Tá legal o áudio?
Tá legal o áudio, tá me ouvindo bem.
Joia. E aí, Luiz? E aí, tudo bom, cara? Joia, tá frio aí? Tá um pouquinho frio, mas não é demais, só uns 12 graus, mais ou menos. Tá bom. Joia como fica abaixo de 5, né? Tem que levar os amigos do emprego. Mas tem que fechar a janela, né? Eu mandei os slides ontem. A gente mesmo que troca slide ou você troca aí?
Mute their song now. Their voice.
Nós vamos dar uma mutada no som aqui da sala, mas aí a gente, qualquer coisa, me chamem nos Messenger que eu volto a falar com vocês, que eu vou distribuir o material aqui agora.
Isso. Tá bom. Eu acho que vai ser eles mesmo que trocam, cara. Quer dizer, não sei. Mas acho que sim. Qualquer coisa a gente diz que te dá um toque em alguém troca, ou outra coisa troca. Eu não fiz os treinamentos aí, eu não sei onde troca slide. Não. Oi. Sim, o pessoal que tá mutando lá.
They were unmuting.
Yes.
They want to talk. We are not letting them talk.
He writes. I don't know.
He wrote, the people back there, they are muting the sound. They discovered this. I explained to them that I was... E todo mundo morrendo de saudade, cara. Eu vou compartilhar com você, sabe? Você vai na escola hoje? Então, vou compartilhar vizinho de presente, e você vai amar mesmo, não pode esperar que dá. Maravilhoso para você, você vai ver. Tem um outro que esse vai ser surpresa. O outro também eu comprei 2 produtos incríveis. Você vai ver o vídeo hoje, você vai ver o vídeo agora, eu vou compartilhar o vídeo agora. O outro Quando a gente viu pra cá, nós não passamos horas, porque eu só vi uma parte, rapidinho, né? Pra cá. Lá dá pra passar horas. Eu conheci só um pedacinho. O que você acha? Gigante lá. Tá bom, deixa eu... Ah, isso é verdade. Verdade, mas dá pra saber quando termina, porque o Gran Bazar mesmo é dentro do prédio. Nosso prédio é bonito, os tetos pintados. Ele é todo horizontal, assim, gigantesco, cheio de corredores. Tem umas fontes de água. Deixa eu te mandar o vídeo. Aí a gente continua conversando com o mestre. Beijinho, tchau. Eu amo. Saudade. panelists are already connected. They are online. So
They will join.
already joined.
In teleconference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both. We tested the
Their
audio.
names are Fabricio and Daniel. Okay.
Both are online. We tested on the room sound.
Audio and video appropriate, yes.
To attend.
Okay.
Let's hope people will attend.
Yes, I hope so. Ya şey oynuyorlardı, Psycho diye bir oyun oynuyorlar. Sen biliyor musun? Ya ben de psikopat oldum ya, çözemedim oyunu sana. Aynen Psycho oldum yani. Bakacağım şimdi işte. Ya, hayır canım. Ebe gibi bir şey oluyor işte. Kalabalık grup oluyor. Ortaya şey geçiyor. İşte o ortadaki kişi işte sonra soruyor işte o gruptakilere. İşte ebe seçiyor. Oyuncuların sorusu olarak kalabalık bulmaya çalışıyor. Ama oynadan çok çözemedim yani. Onun hakikaten çözemedim. Ya bir konferanstaki ekipte oynuyorum. Benim arkadaşım bir şey. Hiç oynadım ben biliyor musun? Ben de oynadım işte. Aynen, kurala bilmeyeceğiz. İşte o yüzden de bana söylemedi aslında. Aynen, yarın evde olabilir yani. İşte 15 dakikada çözümüzü çözerim. Bazıları 2 saat çözemiyormuş. Aynen. Kuralları bilmeyeceğiz. Kurallar ne abi? Dün kurban olarak seçildiğim diye az kalsın cinnet geçirmeme sebebiyet verecek bir oyun. Uzun süre oyun ve iş yatan tanıyı takmak onunla sanırsana kullanılmadı. Oyun oyuncuları sonra karşısındaki çığlık çekmeyle başı güzel. Çözersen de işte soldaki işte çığlık çözecek. Değişik. Herkes kendisine soran soruyu yanındaki adama cevap alıyor. Herkes o fiyat takıyormuş, ha yapıyordu. Meğersem yanındakini diyor işte. Ama başka şeyler var tabii. Bak işte, bu söylemiş aslında niye oldu diye. Neyse, öğrenmiştik biz. Bunlar merak etmiyor. Ya onu sonra geçiyor. Ya hayır başka bir yere var. Bir şey çıktı. Ses çıkmadı. Bir bağımlı kapatalım sesi. Telefon kalkmış oldu, telefon kapatalım. Motoru da tutuyor. Arka gelmemiş böyle şeyler. Böyle. Valla yok profesyonelce kalmamış. Yaşa amatörlük de. Ya bak aslında ne olmasa ben şey yapacaktım. Şöyle yapacaktım. Ben dışarı çıktım falan. Telefonu aldı yanımdaki. Ben telefonu gücün tekiydi işte. Manyak teki. Azaldı bile. Tutuyor falan diye azaldı falan. Benim de elim ayağım var. Böyle deneyeceğiz. Aynen. Neyse okuyayım bunu da. Standart şart. Tamam sadece başka bir şey yok. Bugün 2 tanesini oldu işte. İşte okudu ya. Yani gitti kendisi de sorunu yazdı. Şey bana yazarak Şu bağlanınca. Şu bağlanınca. Türkçe girmiş.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of African oil. I still need to go well, international, I mean, it's regional flights that happen. But yeah, it's also they test you at airports, they ask you
Upgrade. Só nós quatro?
Isso.
Hay un muy central, yo solo soy como cosas así de... ¿No hay nadie más? Analista en público.
We had around Net Mundial in Brazil, all the debates for the conference itself, but especially the experience we had with the public consultation for the arena Net Mundial. Presenting myself, my name is Ricardo Poppi. I work for the Ministry of Social Participation in Brazil, that is General Secretariat of Republic Presidency. We are responsible to providing means of social participation, so political participation in the government, and we organized the Arena Net Mundial in São Paulo in parallel with the conference, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We invited to this panel to help us to tell this story. We invited Daniel Fink, that's remote. He worked at the organization of Net Mundial. Now he's working in ICANN. He will tell a little bit about the story of the participation on the draft of the Net Mundial. We invited to Fabrício Solanha, that's remote. He works at the Participa.br project. He helped us to provide the public consultation, and he will talk a little bit about that. We invited Joana, that's in my left side here. He helped us in the point of view of civil society, helped us to provide the consultation and in the organization of Arena too. We have here Rodrigo from ICANN. We invited him to tell a little bit about the consultations that ICANN has made, an idea of talk about social participation in the internet governance as general. I think it's important for us to approach that. And finally, Renata, that is our remote moderator, and I will ask her to talk a little bit about who she is from Web We Want. That's an important campaign about appropriation of internet, and she had a fundamental role in helping us organizing the Arena Net Mundial, the main panels and the how can I say, independent activities we had around the Arena Net Mundial was lots, like for almost more than 20 independent activities. She had a Web We Want, and Renata had an important role on that. Okay, with no more presentations, I will ask Danielle to make a speech about the contributions on Net Mundial draft. Danielle, can you hear us?
Maybe we yes. Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Can switch the presentation of the, yeah, almost perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Poppy. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to talk with you today. I'm speaking from Brazil, from São Paulo, and I work in Net Mundial from the Executive Secretariat from end of January this year. And let me share with you a little bit about the experience we had with the public participation, which is one of the most active parts of Net Mundial, let's say. So going to the second slide, I hope you can see. So it's not very clear in the WebEx for me, but anyways, I hope you can see from other screen in the room. So about the Net Mundial chronology, we had basically two opportunities for receiving interactions from people. So the first one was the content contribution part that we opened in the Net Mundial website for about 4 weeks, just to receive the contributions from people about the first points for developing the draft. So in this part, we received some large papers, some 10-page or 20-page content contributions, and they are all published in our website. Total of them 188. And the second moment we had for interacting with the general public was the comments about the first draft, and I will be telling a little bit about that for you in a few moments. So this is another view of the content contributions. So we received 188. It was much more than we expected. Just to give you some more ideas, 136 organizations sent contributions and about 147 individual authors. And these contributions came from 67 countries. And we publish all the contributions. They are open in the Net Mundial website. You can see the link in this slide. So, the second part of public participation was the comments. So the personal contributions that we saw before served to give some inputs for the executive committee that developed the first draft. When we finished the first draft, we published the first draft in some special interface for people to send short comments about the first version of Net Mundial outcome. So this web interface is a simple WordPress plugin called Comment Draft that we found in the internet, and we did some modifications in the code for adapting for the Net Mundial case. So some modifications that we made was like when people click in the paragraph, for example, human rights, as you can see there. So it opens some small box for the commenters to fill up their name, their email, and to show up the sector they belong. So they can simply post their comment. This is an open tool, free for everybody to download and use inside some WordPress server. And we counted on the good cooperation from CGI technical people, especially Mr. Flavio Yanai, for making the necessary customizations in the system. And many people ask us how we developed this tool, and in fact it's very easy, very simple for everybody to use it. And I'm sure that Flavio will be happy to give more details for you. Just contact us and to receive the contribution. So from 15th of April to 21 of April, and we had a total of 1,370 contributions, and a large amount came in the last 2 days. So we want to be considered when we have a process like this. And it was very interesting that we had some short comments about the process, and we could like see some dialogue happening between the participants much time before the meeting starts. So I think it was some very useful activity. And this is some information about the amount of comments we had for the principles and for the roadmap. So as you can see, the principles were more popular, received more comments than the roadmap. And you can see also active participation from private sector and civil society. And I think one of the most interesting points was that we were able to somehow predict and inform the committee what could be the hot topics for the net neural discussion. So according to the amount of comments that we had in each paragraph and the type of sectors that were commenting on that, like we could see like what is the most relevant discussions, perhaps the more agreement or disagreement. So in the case of principles, we could see like in the second paragraph about human rights, and we could tell to the committee, okay, these will be some, perhaps we need some more time to discuss this, please conduct the session accordingly. And the paragraph 13 also about permissionless innovation received a lot of comments. And this dialogue that the sectors were having during the discussion time was interesting for us to see what kind of set or what kind of behavior the meeting would have. And the thing for the roadmap, so this is just an example, paragraph 6, meaningful participation and so on. And just to mention about the type of comments that we had in this part, we received comments like suggesting some modification of the text in the first draft, and some people explained the reason, some people not. So another thing that it can be possible to prepare some second version of the net neural draft just using these comments from people in the system. We didn't went through this process, but we could. So we could have a really good sense of the need of the participants in this part. So yeah, I think it was very meaningful, and as was mentioned during the day zero, the session we had in IGF about the net neural process, this public participation and public engagement gave a lot